Hello and welcome to Tales of Knots. I'm Michelle and today we're going to be going over how to crochet the City Lights Shawl. So for this shawl design you can use any level 1 fingering weight yarn that you like in 4 colours. I'm using Gloss from We Crochet and Knit Picks and it's 220 yards per 50 gram skein, and it's a blend of merino wool and silk, so it's going to be really nice and warm for winter, but it's also going to give us a really nice drape. The 4 colours I've got here are Harvest, which is this nice gold colour, Pine for the green, a navy blue, and this one is Plume, this lovely purple colour here. I do apologise that when I was choosing the colours of yarn for the shawl, I wasn't really thinking about what would show up on camera. And I can already tell that these colours are probably going to give us a little bit of trouble seeing the stitches. So I'm actually going to start the shawl off in this colour, even though the finished sample does start with this one, because this one I think is going to be much easier to see what we're actually doing. We're also going to need a 4mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, a yarn needle. We do have some stitch markers here. You might find that they're really useful for marking the beginning and the end of the rows, and then a tape measure too. So we're going to be starting at the smallest point of our shawl. So I'm going to put a slip knot on my hook to begin with, and then I'm going to do 4 chains. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now throughout the rest of the pattern, turning chains are not going to count as a stitch, but in this row 1, these 3 chains here are going to count as a first double crochet, and then I'm going to work 2 more double crochets in this 4th chain from the hook. So there we go, that's row 1 complete, and I'm going to chain 1 and turn, or you can turn and chain 1 if that's your preference. Either way, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to work a stacked single crochet in the first stitch. Now if you've never worked a stacked single crochet, it's very simple. You put your hook in the first stitch of the row, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, so that's a single crochet made. And then on top of this I'm going to work another one, so I'm going to insert my hook in this left vertical leg here of the single crochet and work a second single crochet. And I'm going to repeat that step a 3rd time. So I'm going to insert my hook here in this left leg, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So there's my stacked single crochet to begin the row. If you were a really tight crocheter and you would normally only do 2 chains as a double crochet to start a row, you might want to omit this last single crochet here, but I'm quite a loose crocheter. I would normally do 3 chains to stand in place of a double crochet, and you can almost see these 3 chains on the side there. So this is going to count as my first double crochet of the row, and then I am going to work another double crochet in the 2nd stitch, followed by a chain 1 and a half double crochet. And then in the last stitch of the row, which was these chains we began with, I'm going to work another double crochet. So that's my 2nd row complete. Now I tend to do my turning chains before I turn, so I'm going to chain 2 and then turn. And this is going to become our decreasing edge. So these rows will always begin with a double crochet 2 together. So I'm going to yarn over, put my hook in the 1st stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. Then I yarn over, put my hook in the next stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So now I've got 3 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. So there's my double crochet 2 together. I'm going to follow this with 2 half double crochets, 1 in the chain 1 space and 1 in the double crochet here. So half double crochet in this chain 1 space, half double crochet in this next stitch, and then this was our decreasing edge, so this is now our increasing edge. I'm going to place 3 stitches in this last stitch, and this is the stacked single crochet from the row below. So if you have trouble identifying the top of the stitch, you can turn it sideways. And I don't know if you can see here, I can see almost those 3 chains again. So I know that there is the top of my stitch. So I'm going to place a half double crochet in there, followed by 2 double crochets. So that is always going to be my increasing edge, a half double crochet and 2 double crochets for this first section. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and I'm going to work my stacked single crochet again as the first stitch. So single crochet, insert the hook into this left leg here, and work another single crochet, and then repeat that. So that's my stacked single crochet in the first stitch. And in the second stitch, just like we did in row 2, I'm going to work a double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet. And then I'm going to work a half double crochet V-stitch in the next stitch. Now I've got 3 stitches left. I'm going to do a half double crochet in the next stitch, and this is my decreasing edge, so I'm going to do a double crochet 2 together over these last 2 stitches. So this decreasing edge here, you can start to see it's already got a little curve to it. It will always begin and always end with a double crochet 2 together. So I will chain 2 and turn. And we're going to start with this double crochet 2 together over these first 2 stitches here. And this is row 5 that we're working now. And so the next stitch is this V-stitch, this half double crochet V-stitch. We're going to work another half double crochet V-stitch in the center of this. So through that chain 1 space, we'll work a half double crochet, chain 1, and a half double crochet. Then we've got another V-stitch here, sort of a modified V-stitch, as it began with a double crochet. We're going to place another half double crochet V-stitch in this one. And now we've got one more stitch here at the edge. We're going to work our increase, so our 3 stitches all in one. So we start with a half double crochet and then 2 double crochets. There we go, so that's the end of row 5. You can start to see this increase edge here, and this side has a little bit of a curve already from the decreasing edge that we're doing. So I'm going to chain 1 and place another stacked single crochet in the first stitch. So just like we have been doing, we're inserting our hook into that left leg there and placing another single crochet until we've got 3 single crochets stacked in a row. And in the next stitch, we're working that modified V-stitch, so it's a double crochet, chain 1, and a half double crochet. And then we're going to work a half double crochet V-stitch in the next stitch. So half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet. And we're always going to work that sequence of stitches into those 3 increased stitches from the row below. So next we have a V-stitch, half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet, and we're going to work another V-stitch in the top of that V-stitch. So half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet. Now we're coming up to our decrease edge here. So in this V-stitch here, we're actually going to work into the individual stitches. So we're going to place a half double crochet in the top of the first half double crochet, another half double crochet into the chain space, and then we have this last half double crochet and the double crochet 2 together from the row below, and we're doing our decrease, so we need to work a double crochet 2 together into this half double crochet and this decrease from the row below. So there is our double crochet 2 together. And we're going to chain 2 and turn again. And work another double crochet 2 together over those first 2 stitches. So this is now the beginning of row 7. These first 6 rows here at the beginning were just to kind of get us going, and now we've hit row 7. This is the first row of our repeating rows throughout this section. So we begin row 7 with a double crochet 2 together, because this is on the decrease edge here, and then we work a half double crochet into the next stitch. We're then going to work a half double crochet V-stitch in each V-stitch across. So we've got 3 V-stitches here. We're going to work half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet in each of these V-stitches across the row. So here's the next one, half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet. And into this last V-stitch here. This one is sort of a modified V-stitch because it begins with a double crochet on this outer edge, but it still counts as a V-stitch. We're going to do a half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet. And now we're back at this last stitch, this stacked single crochet from the row below, and we're placing our increase. So we're doing half double crochet followed by 2 double crochets. So that was our half double crochet, 1 double crochet there, and the next double crochet. So that's the end of row 7. Now we're turning for row 8. We're working a stacked single crochet in this first stitch, just as we have been doing. So we've got 3 single crochets stacked on top of each other for this stitch. We're doing a V-stitch in the next one, but because it's on this outer edge, here it's the modified V-stitch, so we're doing a double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet, and then a V-stitch in the next stitch. So remember, in this section 1, this first section, this is how we're going to be beginning all of our increase edges with this combination of stitches here. Now working across the rest of the row, we're going to V-stitch in each V-stitch across. And then we should have 2 stitches left, our decrease and our half double crochet from the row below, and we're going to decrease over those 2 stitches. So double crochet 2 together over these last 2 stitches. So that's row 8. You can see here this edge is getting a little bit of a scalloped edge, so that's what it's going to look like on that increasing row. So I'm going to chain 2 and turn. So here we are at the beginning of row 9. We're going to work our double crochet 2 together to begin again. Now we're at the edge of our decreasing side. So there's our double crochet 2 together, and you can see we've had to go into this V-stitch as part of this decrease. So we're just going to place 2 half double crochets. So 1 in the center of that V-stitch, the chain 1 space, and 1 in the top of the half double crochet. Now we're back to these V-stitches, and we're going to do a half double crochet V-stitch in each V-stitch across. And then we've got our last stitch here, this stacked single crochet. We are going to place our increase. So we'll do half double crochet and 2 double crochets. That is the end of row 9. So we're going to turn for row 10. This is a 6 row repeat that we've got going through this section 1. So rows 7 to 12 are going to be our repeating rows. So in this first stitch here, we're working our stacked single crochet again. Work a double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet in the next stitch, which is our modified V-stitch, and we've got our half double crochet V-stitch in the next stitch. Now we're going to work a half double crochet V-stitch in each of our V-stitches across to the end of the row. So now we've got 3 stitches left, our decrease and our 2 half double crochets here. So we're going to work a half double crochet in the next one. Don't forget, it's not going to be this one. This is part of our V-stitch here. So it's this stitch here, work a half double crochet, and then our decrease, so our double crochet 2 together over these last 2 stitches. So that's the end of row 10. We're going to chain 2 and turn again to work our double crochet 2 together at the beginning of this row 11. And then we're going to V-stitch in each stitch across to the end. So as normal, we're working half double crochet V-stitches out towards this increasing edge. And then our 3 last stitches in the last stitch. So half double crochet and 2 double crochets to finish the row. So now the next row is actually a contrasting colour, which I forgot to add on this stitch. So I'm just going to undo this last double crochet here, and I'm going to bring in my second colour. So I've got my half double crochet and my double crochet here. So I'm going to do in 1 more double crochet to finish the row. I'm going to insert my hook and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And when I'm at my last yarn over, pull through 2, I'm going to add in my contrast colour here and work the last yarn over with this new colour. So now let's chain 1 and turn. Just as we have been doing, we're going to do our stacked single crochet in this first stitch. So now this is the colour that's going to be a little bit difficult to see, I do apologise. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing, or at least are familiar with these first few stitches now. So we're going to do in the next stitch a double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet. So that's sort of our modified V-stitch. And then in the next stitch, remember, we do a regular half double crochet V-stitch. Now this is the last row of our repeating section in this contrast colour. So whenever we have this contrast colour coming, we're going to do a half double crochet V-stitch in each stitch across the row until 1 V-stitch remains. And then in this last V-stitch, we're going to work into the individual stitches. So we put a half double crochet in this first half double crochet, a half double crochet in the chain 1 space. And so now we're going to work a double crochet 2 together over these last 2 stitches here. Now remember, we want to change our colour again. So on this last yarn over, I did actually cut the colour off the other side, and I'm going to join in our main colour again in this last yarn over. We're only doing 1 row of each contrast colour here, so you're not going to be able to carry the colour up the side, unfortunately. You will have to fasten off and join each time. So now I do 2 chains, and now we're back to a row 7 repeat. So we need to fasten off this contrast colour again to make sure we don't have too many yarn balls connected at the same time. So we've done our 2 chains and we're on a row 7 repeat, so we're beginning with our double crochet 2 together over the first 2 stitches. Just pull those colour changes nice and tight, and we're doing a half double crochet in the next stitch. Then we're going to be working a V-stitch in each V-stitch across out to the increase edge. So working in those chain spaces in the middle of the V-stitches below, we're working our half double crochet V-stitches. Our final stitch of the row to work our 3 stitches, beginning with a half double crochet followed by 2 double crochets. So this is what we've got at the end of section 1. We've got our decreasing edge on this side, we have our increasing edge on this side, and every time we worked a row 12 we used our contrasting colour, so we've got these nice little stripes here. I did use this harvest colour as my main colour when I was working the first section on camera, just because it shows up so much better, but the actual shawl, as you can see, I had the purple as the main colour and I was using the harvest for my colour 2, my contrasting colour. Section 2 moves into just using this harvest color. So it will be easy again to see the rows as we're working them up. So I have gone on a little bit, as you can see. This row here is actually the last row 12 repeat of section 1, and then I've gone into the first 2 rows of section 2, which is actually just working the row 7 and the row 8 repeat once more. So this beginning bit is worked just the same as a row 9 repeat. So I'm on my decreasing edge. I'll do a double crochet 2 together over these first 2 stitches. I'm going to half double crochet in the center of the first V-stitch and then in the half double crochet on the edge of the V-stitch. So that's the same way that row 9 repeats start. And now instead of working V-stitches in each V-stitch across, we're going to work a half double crochet chain 2. And we're going to work that half double crochet chain 2 in the center of each V-stitch across this row. I'm just making sure that I keep these chains nice and loose so that I have roughly the same tension with my chains as I do with my regular half double crochet stitches. Coming up to the end of the row, I've got this last V-stitch here with my half double crochet chain 2, and then I work my 3 stitches in this last stitch as per usual. So the half double crochet in this last stitch here, followed by 2 double crochet stitches. So that's 1 and my second double crochet there. So you can see now these chain 2 spaces have given us some little eyelets in this row across. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn. Ooh, got a little tangle. So in this first stitch I'm working my stacked single crochet. Again, as per normal, in the next stitch I'm working my double crochet, chain 1 and half double crochet V-stitch, followed by a regular half double crochet V-stitch in the next stitch. And so now we want to go back to using V-stitches. So what we're going to do is skip each chain 2 space, and in the half double crochet stitch we're going to place a half double crochet V-stitch in this row. So just in the top of the half double crochet below, you place the half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet, skipping the chain 2 space, and we're going to work this all the way back down to the other end of the row, which should be row 46 in the pattern, I believe. So this is the last eyelet here. For every single half double crochet and chain 2 space I worked on the right side. On the wrong side we're coming back down, working the V-stitches into the top of the half double crochet. So this is that last one here, the half double crochet chain 2 that we started with. So we're working a V-stitch in this stitch, and now we should have 3 stitches remaining. So we've got half double crochet, and the decrease from the beginning of the previous row. So just here we're going to work 1 half double crochet followed by our decrease. So double crochet 2 together over these last 2 stitches. So these 2 rows here essentially take the place of the rows 9 and 10 in the repeats from section 1. So I'm going to work just as normal the rows 11 and 12 repeats, but I'm continuing in this harvest color. I'm not changing colors in this section. So I'll turn, and I've chained 2, and I'm working a double crochet 2 together over the first 2 stitches. And so just the same as the row 11 repeat, we now go straight into the V-stitches. So I'll do a V-stitch in each V-stitch across. And we should be already familiar with how to work these next 2 rows, and I'll work these off camera. So back down at the end of this row 12 repeat, remember we don't work into this last V-stitch here. We do a half double crochet in the first half double crochet of the V-stitch, half double crochet in the center of it, and then we do our double crochet 2 together, decrease here. So then this is the first 6-row repeat of section 2. So we've got 7 rows here of this color, because remember this contrasting row here is actually the last row 12 repeat of section 1 before we moved into the new 6-row repeat. So rows 7 and 8 are the same. Rows 9 and 10 have these eyelets here, and then rows 11 and 12 are the same. And we just continue working these 6-row repeats again another 4 times until we get to the next section. So I'm going to work these off camera, and then I will see you back at the beginning of section 3. So we've made it to the end of our second section here. It's getting to the point now where it's a little bit difficult to show the whole thing on camera. But this is row 72 at the end of section 2, and we've got our eyelet rows here. So now it's time to go on to section 3. We're actually going to use the first color that we've been using. So for me, that's this purple here. And I'm just going to join my yarn here. So I've rejoined my first color and I've chained 2, and we're going to start the row the same way we have been doing for the other repeating sections, with a double crochet 2 together on this decreasing edge on this side. And then we're going to half double crochet in the next stitch. So for this row, we're moving away from these V stitches. So we're going to do half double crochets across this row, and we're going to start with 2 in the middle of this first V stitch. Followed by 3 in the next. And we're just going to alternate this down the row, working 2 half double crochets in one V stitch, and then working 3 half double crochets in the next V stitch. And we're just going to work this all the way across the row till we get to the end. Just take a quick look across your row to make sure you're alternating 2 stitches followed by 3 stitches, then 2, then 3. And hopefully you don't find a mistake like I just did. Coming up to the end of the row, we've got 3 here. And you should have 2 half double crochets in this last space here. So if you're working 3 at that point, you know you've probably gone wrong somewhere along the row. So just double check that you end up with 2 half double crochets in the last chain 2 space. And then as per usual in the last stitch, we are working that half double crochet followed by 2 double crochets. So I've just counted all the way along my row to make sure that I have 122 stitches. Chain 1 and turn, and I'm going to work a stack single crochet in the first stitch. So remember, we insert the hook and work a single crochet. Work another single crochet, and we repeat that one more time. Pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So there's our stacked single crochet. So from here it gets a little bit different because we're not working V stitches anymore. So in the next stitch, I'm going to work a double crochet, followed by 2 half double crochets. And then we're going to work 3 half double crochets in the next stitch. And 3. So there's our increasing edge for this section. We're working a stacked single crochet in the first stitch, followed by 1 double and 2 half double crochets in the next stitch, and 3 half double crochets in the next stitch. And that's going to stay the same for this increasing edge throughout this section. Now this next part's very easy. I'm simply going to half double crochet into each stitch across. So we've worked all the way back down to the decreasing edge until we've got 2 stitches left, and then we do our decrease, our double crochet 2 together over these last 2 stitches. So that's the first row we're going to be repeating in this section, and then the next row that we're going to be repeating is we turn. And it's much easier in this section to begin these rows, as all we have to do is work a double crochet 2 together at the beginning of this decreasing edge, and then we're simply working a half double crochet in each stitch across to the last stitch, where we're working our regular increase of half double crochet and 2 double crochets into the same last stitch. So for this section, all we're going to be doing is repeating the row we've just worked, followed by this row I'm about to work, until we get to section 4. So this is the end of section 3. I've been using the plume colour here for these 6 rows. And now I'm starting section 4. I've joined my next colour, which is navy. So colour 3 in my pattern is navy for this sample. And I'm literally just going to work the first 2 rows very simply, a repeat of the last 2 rows. So I've repeated these last 2 rows in this 3rd colour here, and now I'm ready to start the star stitch row. If you do have a little bit of a wave here, that's absolutely okay. You will find a slight difference in your tension from working solid stitches compared to working these chain spaces, but it will just block out at the end. If you do find that you have a lot of extra fabric, you may want to go down a hook size for these solid sections, or likewise, if it's pulling in a bit too much, you may want to go up a hook size. But just a slight little difference should be absolutely fine for when it's blocked at the end. So to start our star stitch rows, we're going to begin just the same way we have been doing on this decrease edge with a double crochet 2 together. And then the first stitch we want to work is a beginning star stitch. So this is slightly different from the remaining star stitches we're going to work because it needs to be worked into this edge here. So what we need to do for the beginning star stitch is to pull up 2 loops in this previous stitch. So we're going to work into the post of the second half of this double crochet 2 together. And so it's very, very difficult to see in this color, but because it is a double crochet 2 together, there is a horizontal bar in this stitch right there. So it doesn't matter exactly where you insert your hook to pull up a loop, but if you insert it before the horizontal bar and after the horizontal bar, that's going to give you the best look for the stitch. So we've got our yarn loop on the hook already, and I'm going to insert my hook through the post, yarn over and pull up 1 loop. So now at the bottom of the post, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. So now I've pulled up my 2 loops in this post here. So I've got 3 loops on my hook. Now I'm going to insert my hook into the base of the stitch that the double crochet 2 together was worked into. So insert my hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. So now I've got 4 loops on my hook. And then I'm going to pull up a loop in each of the next 2 stitches. So insert my hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. And in the next one, insert, yarn over and pull up a loop. So here now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 loops on my hook. So I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 6 of those loops. And then I'm going to chain 1 to close this stitch. And this little chain 1 here creates a tiny little circle, which is the eyelet of the stitch. And that's where we're going to work into for the next star stitch. So what we're going to do is similar to the way we worked the beginning star stitch. The rest of the star stitches in the row, we are going to insert our hook into that eyelet. So that chain 1 that closed the last stitch. We pull up a loop in there. For the next loop we need to pull up, we're going to insert our hook in this last post here, but we're just going to insert our hook through the back leg only of it and pull up a loop. And that just stops that front leg being pulled out and stretched too much. Then again, we're going to work into the base of the star stitch that we've just worked. So this last stitch here that the last leg was worked into, we're going to insert our hook and pull up a loop. And then just as before, we're going to insert our hook into each of the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. So there we've got our 6 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 6 and chain 1 to close and create that eyelet again. So there you can just about see slightly stretched out. We're going to work that again. Remember, we put our hook first through this eyelet here. So insert the hook and pull up a loop. Then we're going to pull up a loop in the last leg of the star stitch we just worked. Remember to go through the back of that so that we don't stretch the stitch out. Now we work into the base of the stitch that we went into for the last star stitch. Pull up a loop and then each of the next 2. 1 and 2. Now we're going to yarn over, pull through all 6 of those and chain 1 to create that eyelet. So let's work it one more time. So we insert the hook into the eyelet and pull up a loop. Insert the hook into the back of the last leg that we worked. Pull up a loop. Insert our hook into the last stitch that we worked into. Pull up a loop, and then in each of the next 2. Pull up 1, pull up the last one. So we've got 6 loops on our hook. Yarn over and pull through all 6, chain 1 to close. And so I'm just going to continue working these star stitches all the way along the row. Just make sure that you keep your tension quite loose, because this can be a little bit of a tighter stitch. So if you do find that it is pulling, feel free to go up a hook size, just to give you that little extra room so that it's not gathering the fabric too much. I'm going to go all the way along the row off camera, and then I'm going to come back here where we're at the end of the row to finish. So I've worked my star stitches across the row. I've just got one left to do, and you can see here it pulls it in slightly, but it will block out. But as I said, you may find that you need to go up a hook size. So if this is a 4, this is a 4.5, that may get you just the extra little room that you need. I've been doing it quite loosely, and I've got 1, 2, 3 stitches left. So I can do one more star stitch. So I'm going in the eyelet, pulling up a loop, in the back side of the last leg, pulling up a loop, in the base of the last stitch worked, pull up a loop, and 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. Then I'm going to pull through all 6 loops on the hook and chain 1, and then I've just got this last stacked single crochet to work into. So just as normal, we do our half double crochet rather, and then 2 double crochets to finish this row. So there we go. We're going to work the beginning of the row in the same manner that we have been doing in the last section. Work a stacked single crochet in the first stitch. So I've got my 3 tiers here of a stacked single crochet. In the next stitch, I'm working a double crochet followed by 2 half double crochets. And then working 3 half double crochets in the next stitch. So 1, 2, and 3. So now we've got the back side of our star stitches, and you should be able to see these eyelets here. So at the top of the stitches that we worked into before, we've got these eyelets, and what we're going to do is place 2 half double crochets in each eyelet across. So the first one is right here, and it's where all the stitches are gathered up. You can just about see. So place 2 half double crochets in there, and then don't work into the top of the stitch, just work into the next eyelet with 2 half double crochets. Next one is here. So just these small little circles that you can see, and here. And I'm just going to work this all the way down the row back to the end until I get to the very last eyelet and 1 stitch remaining. So I've worked my way back down the row with these half double crochets, placing 2 in each eyelet, which thankfully is much quicker than working the star stitches on the way up. And I've got 1 eyelet left and the double crochet 2 together, which started the previous row. And so now in this last eyelet, I'm going to work 1 half double crochet, followed by the double crochet 2 together over the eyelet and the double crochet 2 together here. There we go, and that completes our star stitch rows. So for this section, we're just repeating these 4 rows, 2 rows of plain half double crochet, followed by the star stitches on the way up and the 2 half double crochet in each eyelet on the way down. And that just gives us a really nice star stitch texture. So I'm going to work the rest off camera, And then the next section after that is a repeat in the same color again, in this purple color, of just these plain half double crochet rows. And then the last two sections are actually repeats of this V-stitch pattern here, followed by these V-stitch stripes. And then that's the end of the shawl. So I'll come back to show you some finished pictures of when it's done. But otherwise, thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed crocheting along with me the City Lights shawl.